Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Metagame, TheEndStep's talk show.
Number 7.
Yeah, we're going to go over the results for the last couple weeks. Then we'll touch on a little bit of Modern Masters and some speculation on upcoming sets.
Love some speculation.
So,
Speculate. We will be speculating.
Yeah. And my plant is getting larger.
Yes. Somebody actually suggested we should name the plant, and I was a little worried that might have been too
Channel Fireball?
channel fireball, but if you guys want to name the plant,
Yeah.
you can name
You
the
guys
plant.
can name the plant.
You guys can name the plant. It's getting pretty big.
I got to transplant it, actually.
Transplant it.
All right, so first up, the first one we're going to talk about is the standard tournament in Guadalajara.
Yep.
It was basically a top 8 of Reanimator and like Naya aggro decks, like a Domri Naya aggro deck, which is coming on strong. It was won by Reanimator.
Andre Martinez.
Yep. Very classic list. You know, we've seen all the standard stuff. Nothing really special. It does have a Death Red Shaman main, but like that's a big contribution, I guess.
I feel like that's fine. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty standard. No pun intended these days.
Yeah, I mean he's not playing like 4 Arbor Elves. He's playing the Shaman in that spot. That's pretty much it for that top 8. Honestly, there's not too much innovation. The Naya decks, the Domri Naya decks, were like more interesting just because we haven't seen that in a while. Which kind of led into like the next week when we saw some more Naya decks that are changing and becoming a better deck.
Right.
But the next deck we're going to go into is the SCG tournament.
Yep. Dallas.
In Dallas-Fort Worth. And that was a double standard weekend.
Saturday and Sunday were both standard.
And like the story of the weekend, I guess, is Aaron Barish. Is that I would say his name?
Sure. Sounds good.
Yeah, there you go. So he ran it back-to-back. He did top 8 both of them, ultimately winning the Sunday.
He won the Sunday event, yes.
And this is the deck I'm talking about. This is the Naya deck that is an aggro Naya deck, but it's not humans. It's more of a, like, the best creatures at each slot up the curve. So it's, Voice of Resurgence and Experiment 1, Dry Militant on 1, and then, Smiters and Gorkland Rampagers, and then topping out at Advent.
Right, yeah, for going the whole Domri plan and just playing a lot more spells.
Yeah.
Right.
And he actually, like, ended up just cutting the Domris, too. Like, he doesn't even have Domri.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas, like, the week before, we were seeing Domri in these lists, which is good, but then you really have to force super creatures, where he chose to ignore Domri and then play Advent and Boros Charm and Rancors, which seem better to me. I mean, you're doing more damage.
Right. Dryad Militant is also a really...
Yeah, it's a very
interesting
unassuming
creature.
card. Like, nobody really played with that card at all before these decks started coming out.
It does pull a lot of weight, though.
It does a lot of work. I mean, it gets outclassed pretty quickly, but it's like perfect in that slot.
It's kind of like a little main deck Rest in Peace that can attack.
Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, it also dies, too, which is like something Rest in Peace doesn't have to deal with, usually.
Yeah.
But, how often can you kill somebody with your Rest in Peace?
Right. Never.
Never.
Unless you're
playing Helm of Obedience. I was just what I was going to say.
Vija. So day 1 was won by Ken Mignot with a deck that's more near and dear to your heart.
Yes, Blue-White Control. I feel like this is the... Because we played at the TCG Player 5K.
Yep.
I don't know if it was this weekend or the weekend before. I think it was the weekend before.
Yeah.
And
you were playing a list very similar to this.
Very similar. And Matt Costa, was it? Top-aided with it?
Yeah.
A list like that, like this. And then it won the next weekend at the Star City. I feel like Blue-White-Red is like the new Esper.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
But there's like different ways to build it. Like where Esper was really just Esper control, and it was like Planeswalkers versus not Planeswalkers. But now you can play Blue-White-Red control as control, or Blue-White-Red with like Reckoners, Hellkites.
Yeah.
A Blue-White-Red
more of a flash style, more aggro style.
Right.
Yeah, I think the build that's better right now is the control style. Just because you can run a bunch of pillars and searing spears and stuff, and
I agree. You don't have to give up too many elements either. You just play lawless creatures.
Yeah, I mean, essentially you have this like inevitable end game of Aetherling, which you just cannot beat.
Right.
Yeah.
Aetherling pulls.
And it closes the game out way faster than the old Drown Yard plan. So like Drown Yard was like, yeah, you kind of lock the game up and you win by milling, but it just takes forever. Where like Aetherling is like 2 turns.
2-3 turns. Yeah, Aetherling's a lot faster.
So those are kind of the notable decks from that tournament. We saw some there was a bug control list that was kind of interesting. That was like a super planeswalker list, like a ton of planeswalkers.
Was that weekend?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bug deck.
I don't think it was that weekend.
Well, oh, maybe it was the next weekend. Yeah, it was the next weekend. I'm sorry. Yeah, there it is. You jumped ahead.
You jumped ahead.
I know, I got excited. Alright, so then we go to Baltimore.
Featuring this unique bug control today.
And here's this bug control deck. So this was an interesting weekend because, Brad Nelson and Todd Anderson are like the two, main guys from SCG that do their versus videos and, a ton of content for the site.
Right.
And they basically take down both tournaments.
Right. Brad Nelson needed this win though too.
He's been doing pretty well lately.
He's been doing well, but he hasn't been winning.
He won a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah, I know.
It's a classic. It's
this is much more prestigious.
Yeah.
Obviously the money is way better.
Right.
So he won with Junk Aristocrats, which is a newer archetype. We've been seeing it online some, but nobody really has taken down a tournament with it yet.
Right.
And it was kind of like before this tournament, it was still arguable which build was better, this versus the older Aristocrats with red. But this deck just has a lot of resiliency. Wrath is awful against this deck.
Right, yeah, I agree. Pillar Flames is the
best card. Yeah.
And that's why it's seeing a lot more play. But yeah, Wrath is not that great. It's just pretty much all value creatures.
Yeah. Individually, the creatures kind of stink.
Arguably the worst Undying creature, one of the worst one-drop white creatures. But Virals makes everything a little bit better.
Yeah, and Blood Artist just makes everything even better.
And Cartel Aristocrat has proven to be a
real card.
A real card. Yeah, I'll definitely build around the card because it's spawned 2 to 3 decks just by itself. So I'll be interested to see how that continues on into future standard.
Yeah, so Junk Aristocrats I think now is probably in that tier 1 or just maybe below tier 1, but a little bit more time I think we'll see where it kind of settles. But
yeah, it's definitely a Code A deck.
Yeah,
it just needs to break out into a Code S.
Yep.
Kind of thing. Needs to reach Jund levels of consistency and play.
Yeah. I do think Jund becomes a little better if this deck becomes more popular. Jund will then start playing main deck pillars.
Yeah, that's what keeps
Bonfire.
That's what really keeps it from reaching the tier.
Bonfire is really good.
It's really resilient, but it's not that resilient. Yeah. It depends how well the other decks can adapt to you.
Yep. So that's probably the notable decks I'd say for the standard portion. So then we go to Sunday, and Todd Anderson won with Esper Deathblade.
Yep.
Which is a deck he's played, not a ton. I know Brad BBD was the huge guy behind this deck.
Loves it a lot. Loves it a lot.
Which I was more happy when he was playing Jund, but he's doing much better with Esper Deathblade. But
yeah, whatever works.
It's all good. So that's a known deck. Everybody knows what that list is. It's basically just the evolution of the other Esper decks.
Yep.
With Snowforge Mystics. The notable decks are probably the new Omnitail deck, the mono
I'm not
blue one.
100% sure how new it is, but I have not seen it.
Yeah, it's new to us. Put it that way.
It is a mono blue combo deck with Show and Tell, Omniscience, End of the Infinite, kills you with a Laboratory Maniac, Cunning Wishes. I've heard it's really, really good. It even has Dream Halls in it.
Yeah. So
pretty crazy.
It's interesting to see a monocolor deck in Legacy. The monocolor decks are very classically usually land destruction and lockout decks the Death and Taxes.
Arguably the best monocolor deck has been Burn. Traditionally it's lasted the longest. It's done the most work. It's the most pick me up and play.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, it'd be cool. I wish there was a solid monocolor deck for every color. That'd be really interesting.
It would be cool for Legacy to have that. I just don't think there's enough in those each colors.
There's not enough black or green.
Yeah. Smallpox, Pox was a deck for a little while with Sinkhole and stuff, but
right. Yeah, Sinkhole's not actually surprisingly not good enough.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Other than that, there wasn't anything too crazy.
Yeah, a lot of the classic stuff. So Rug Delver, regular Omnitail.
Yep.
Sneak and Show.
Yep.
So then we move on from there, and we go to GP Providence.
Woo! We personally attended this tournament.
We did go to this tournament. We didn't do very well.
We did not do very well.
We went 2 and 3 drop.
Although it was funny to watch Adam stand up and sit down. for the passing of the pools portion. Will player B stand up?
Yeah. So,
Passes to your left.
So official.
Sit down.
Like,
stand up. Do the hokey pokey.
yeah, everybody enjoyed that.
It was pretty funny. Raise your hand.
It was a fun tournament, though. I will say, like, we did bad, but the whole experience was really fun. The whole like, team building and like the team play. I thought I say I like the team play more than the team building.
Right.
Myself.
Yeah.
I liked that collaboration of like going to your buddies on both sides of you. I was in the middle, so like I was going like both back and forth. Like, oh, what's the optimal play here? What does he have? What should I play around?
That'd be sweet. Like team constructed formats would be awesome.
Yeah, and it was popular enough that SCG actually took notice and is changing one of the SCGs coming up in September to a team sealed.
They've already done one, haven't they?
Yeah, they did one.
They've done one, and I guess they're bringing up.
They're switching it around again, where they're going to do day 1 team sealed, day 2 standard. So again, pissing off the legacy players, but and that will probably be one that we'll go to because it's actually in Worcester, I think.
Oh, there you
for
go.
us. So pretty cool.
Yep.
So overall, the experience was good. It was eventually won by Longo, Phillips, and Berger.
Right.
But I'd say the story of the tournament was the Martin Yuza, Shuhei Nakamura, and Ben Stark team. Obviously, that team is gross. It's insane.
That's definitely an insane team.
If like you looked at the teams just on like name potential and like pro points and all that, like that was one you'd pick. Like who would win this tournament?
Oh yeah.
And even just limited knowledge with Ben Stark being on that team.
Right.
But if you didn't read it, go read the article on the Mothership about their experience and like getting there. Like Ben Stark, like barely got there. Like flight was canceled a million times. Made it there with 10 minutes to spare.
Yeah.
Like right before the tournament started.
Essentially trapped in Florida.
Yeah, like trapped in Florida, where like his other two teammates flew in from around the world, and he couldn't get there from Florida. And it was like make or break. Like he had to get there, and he did, and they made top 4.
Yeah, no sleep.
No sleep, and they were second highest going into day 2 in terms of point totals, losing the last round for undefeated, and like it was like super Cinderella story. So it's kind of like rooting for that team to take it down, but hey, you can't win them all. But I'd say that's a very solid run, regardless.
Very, very, very solid run. Props to the winners for beating them.
Yeah, no, they did.
In the top 4.
And then the other tournaments going on the same weekend was a GP in Gothenburg, which is another. This was not a team, but it was still RTR block sealed. And it's I will say about this about like the block constructed with sealed and especially team sealed. Like the deck construction portion is like pretty difficult. There's like almost too many options. There's so many different configurations on which decks to build, where cards fit, who gets what, because of all the splashing you can do with all your Guild Gates and your Clue Stones and everything else. Like you can really play anything.
It turns out he ended up playing Grixis deck.
Yeah, the winner was Oscar Christensen and played a Grixis deck, which looks like insane amounts of removal. Yeah, that's a lot of removal.
Yep, looks like it. Explosive Impact, Dimir Charm, Devour Flesh. Breaking and Entering is really interesting.
Yeah, Annihilating Fire, Augur
Steal their
Spree.
Bombs. Yeah, Breaking and Entering seems like a really good sealed bomb.
Physique.
Yep. Well, good for him. Good job.
The last tournament that weekend was SCG in St. Louis, and this was back to the classic, standard legacy setup. Mm-hmm. So day 1 was won by the Aristocrats, but not Drunk Aristocrats. This is Act
traditional
2.
Aristocrats.
With Blasphemous Act and Reckoner and all that stuff.
Yep.
And he beat his opponent in the finals was Nia Blitz, and pretty much did exactly what his deck wants to do: get a bunch of Doom Travelers, block, play Reckoner, Blasphemous Act.
Yep, sounds good.
Sounds good. So there was two like more aggro flash decks that showed up in this top 8 with like Geist of St. Traft.
The other half of the blue, white, red color pie, as you could say. The opposite of the control lists, the very aggressive lists. Other than that, nothing really too interesting.
No, all the other decks like that we saw, like of new decks like Junk Aristocrats and the other Naya deck, there was one in the top 8, and I think there was another in the top 16. So it's still like proving now that we're going to see if those decks stay in the top tables or not, or if it was just like a splash, like, oh, this is a new deck, I'm not trying to play around
The Aristocrats decks?
Yeah, the junk one.
Okay, yeah, the junk one. Yeah.
Which I do think it's still very good. I think it's just like it is almost a concession to Pillar of Flame. Like the card exists and you know it exists and it's really good against your deck, but you pretty much anybody that doesn't have Pillar of Flame, like
you're
way ahead.
You almost like have like a good matchup against them. Yep.
So last tournament that we're going to talk about is the Legacy portion of that SCG in St. Louis.
Won by Cranderson.
Yeah. And it was
Chris Anderson.
Blue-Black Tezzeret.
Blue-Black Tezzeret.
Very popular deck right now.
It's extremely popular. Depending on who you talk to, it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Some people either really like it or really hate it.
I honestly think that's most Legacy decks, though. Like
it is
like,
most Legacy decks,
like you have your deck and you will defend it to the death.
Right, it's true, but like you need to like the majority consensus to agree that it's like a deck worth putting cards in your sideboard for.
Oh
you know?
yeah.
It's like everyone's like, all right, yeah, that deck's good enough for me to like test against.
Right.
Where I don't think Blue-Black Tezzeret's like hit that level yet. Everyone's like, oh, let me prepare for this Tezzeret matchup that I'm probably gonna face.
No, yeah.
No one's like really thought of it as like a real deck.
It's not on like Sneak and Show level or Rug Delver level.
Right. It's like you need to have plans for those decks.
Or Deathblade level. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, Deathblade has definitely hit that level.
Yeah, Deathblade is definitely there. But there was a couple weird decks that are interesting, like the Bug Stifle Knot deck, which is like a throwback to the old Stifle Knot deck where you stifle your Phyrexian Dreadnought.
Barely missed 8th place.
Yeah.
Barely missed top 8.
Yeah. Not sure how good the deck really is, but it has some cool interactions with Viral's new card.
Yep. So it's pretty much just a Stifle Knot deck. Yeah, except you also have Viral's for redundancy, and you play some Death Shadows for even more redundancy.
And then you play Goyfs because they're pretty good.
Goyfs because it's a card.
So we'll see if that's a deck. It's probably way too cute, but it's interesting.
Yep.
And I think that was really it for more like innovative stuff.
Yeah, I mean there's like, some blue-white red Delver lists, the White Weenie deck.
Oh yeah, Death and Taxes. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just some blue-white red Delver was like it's a deck that's like existed but it doesn't really do that great.
I will say I like that deck more than Rug Delver right now.
Blue-white red Delver.
Yeah. Just because like it's a lot better against Deathblade. Because like Goyf is like pretty bad against Deathblade, honestly.
Yeah,
like, there's like a million ways to kill it. Like
yeah, it doesn't do much.
Or like guys say Trap, pretty good against Deathblade. Like yeah, they get blocked with a Dark Confidant or a Snapcaster or something, but you most likely will have the Lightning Bolt for it.
Right. And then Swords is just like a phenomenal card.
Yeah.
It's definitely a reason to be playing white.
Yeah. And
it really had wear and tear in its sideboard.
Wow.
Wow.
Cool.
Sweet. Legacy card.
Making splashes.
Get your foils now.
Yeah, definitely get your foils. So the last topic of the day is Modern Masters into speculation.
Yes. So Adam, how do you feel about Modern Masters?
I'm on the fence if I like the set or not, honestly. Like, for me personally, it's kind of a waste of money because I already have Goyfs and I already have Dark Confidants. So like, the two most expensive cards I don't actually care to open, which is kind of the motivation to open those packs. So if you're paying a lot of money for those boxes, like, if you have those cards, it's almost a waste.
Right, if you have those cards. But the whole point is to put more of those cards out in the market so people who don't have them can get their hands on them.
Yeah, but there's the unfortunate problem of the people that have the money to buy the boxes at the inflated prices probably already have those cards because they can afford those cards.
Right, and the people who would want those cards that don't have those cards don't have the money to buy
the inflated
Modern
prices.
Masters.
Yeah.
So it's a little counterintuitive.
Right. I mean, we saw at the GP, personally, we were watching people like shred packs at crazy for like $12, $13 a pack.
Yeah, the vendors were selling them for like 12, 13. I think I even saw a 14
Yeah, that's
price.
disgusting.
And like I'm just looking at the cards in the case, and then people are just like, give me 2 packs, give me another one, give me another one, give me another one.
It was like
shelling 20s out.
I felt like they were like scratch ticket whores, like at a convenience store, like scratch your ticket. Oh, this is a loser. Give me another one.
Yeah,
scratch your
and
ticket.
99% of the people that I saw open packs didn't get anything good.
No, we saw people lose all day with those packs. They were not making any money.
The best thing I saw was like a Cryptic Command. Like no one opened a Goyf, no one opened a Bob. I saw lots of dragons.
I saw one Dark Confidant.
You did see a Dark Confidant?
I did see one Dark Confidant. But that's like, this was all day. We were seeing people crack
all
packs.
day. Like all of the boots are selling out like $13 a pack.
Yeah, I mean, this was day one of the GP, and they were gone halfway through the day of
yeah.
all their Modern Masters in the whole place.
Like $13 a pack. Now, we will say, if you can find a store that has them for like $7, like normal price,
Yeah, if you get them retail,
it's worth getting.
very good. Yeah, you most likely will break even or start making money at that point.
Right, but once you start like breaking $10 a pack, like be really skeptical and think about your purchases. Like you're gonna be hard pressed unless you had some like good pulls, which is possible.
Yeah.
You're gonna be hard pressed to make your money back at that price.
Yeah,
Just based on like pure value of the cards.
when
alone.
you're $10 to $14 a pack, you might as well just buy 4 or 5 packs of regular set.
Right, yeah, that's a lot. Like, and like maybe try and trade their way up, or just think about it. Like you might, if you're willing to buy a box for like $200 something, like that's a set of like Dark Confidants.
Yeah, you might as well just buy
buy a set of Dark Confidants. Like that's like unfortunately that's not gonna get you a set of Goyfs, but
yeah.
you're guaranteeing yourself Goyfs at that point. Whereas like there's a really good chance you're not gonna pull a Goyf in your box.
And the thing to note, like they moved those 2 cards to Mythic for 2 reasons. One, they're obviously amazing cards, so they deserve to be a Mythic, but they didn't want the market to get that flooded, so they're at Mythic, so they're going to be really rarely opened. So like the market's not going to change that much on those cards.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good advice of like if you can find them cheap, they're worth buying. I think you'll see some extra come down. Like there is a second wave that stores will be getting.
Right.
And maybe they'll be a little cheaper because that initial like crazy hype will be down a little bit.
Unfortunately, Adam and I don't have much experience with the limited Modern Masters, like playing.
No, we
like,
haven't
a draft
drafted it
or a
yet.
sealed,
That's
if
what
you're
we're
crazy
going to
enough
do
for
with the ones that I've got. Is drafted. I'm not actually opening for cards. I'm opening to actually play the limited format.
Right. So we'll have to get back to you on our experiences with that, but it looks fun. Definitely looks fun.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of archetypes. Looks like there's a lot of depth there. It's pretty well thought out. But on paper, it looks good. We'll let you know next metagame probably.
Yeah.
Our official opinion.
Try and get some good stuff on that. Unfortunately, like that's probably a little ways away from now. So whether it's relevant, we'll have to determine.
So on the speculation side of Modern Masters into other sets is cards that like are notable omissions from the set, like namely Thoughtseize.
Yes, Thoughtseize was not in Modern Masters, and I know a lot of people wanted it because that's like a $75 card that is a staple in both Modern and Legacy.
Yep.
Like, if you want to be playing Black, you need to be getting some Thoughtseizes.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite card of all time.
More Modern than Legacy, because Dress
close.
is like still really good in Legacy.
Yeah, it is.
And so is Inquisition, and those are much cheaper alternatives. But Thoughtseize is a killer in Modern.
Inquisition being one of the other notable exclusions.
Yeah, I mean that's still like an $8, $9
Yeah, it's
uncommon.
uncommon,
It's like only going to go up in price. Don't get me wrong, especially if you have a foil one. Like hold on to that, because it'll just go up and up and up and up and up. So yeah.
So leading into the Thoughtseize discussion is like, if the whole point of Modern Masters is getting the most expensive cards into the hands of other players, newer players that don't have those cards, you should print those cards. So most people believe it's either in M14 or in Theros.
Thoughtseize.
Yes. Leading into the Modern season for next year.
I think that's a pretty good bet, honestly. Like.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet. Like it'll surprise me if it's not in one of those.
Mm-hmm. And it's gonna be really good.
It's gonna be gross. Like it's
standard format.
Wow,
again.
I'll be super pumped to play those.
Oh yeah, I'm just jamming the crap out of those.
I mean, it was amazing the first time in standard. It's just gonna be just as good.
Oh yeah, just as good, definitely. But yeah, like. We are speculating that that card will see a reprint in the upcoming sets because it's so in demand, because it's so expensive. It's so in demand, and vice versa. And they didn't put it in Modern Masters, so they have to put it somewhere.
Yeah, I mean they could be reserving it. The last place would be Modern Masters 2, but that's more of a ways off. Like I feel like it has to be in these next 2 just to. I think the bonus if they do M14, I think M14 sales would be like whoop. Just because of that card.
And like generally core set sales are pretty.
Yeah, it's the worst selling set.
Pretty poor. So like I think that's like a really good move financially for Wizards. And it's really not going to hurt the price of Thoughtseizes that much anyway.
No.
They might go down to like a $40 card.
Yeah.
But that's pushing it. Like I can still see.
And then they'll slowly come back up anyways.
And then they'll slowly come back up anyways. Yeah. It'll just make M14 that much better to open.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the potential Theros stuff?
I personally think Dryad Arbor's a shoo-in.
Yeah. The more we think about this, like Greek mythology, Roman mythology idea that fits in, also was a notable exception to Modern Masters.
Notable exception, and it was part of their Wizards 7-year plan when Time Spiral block was around, and it was in Future Sight, which was meant to like showcase mechanics or cards coming ahead of time. Like, you know, Tarmogoyf showcased Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
And there's been lots of reprints from Time Spiral. And Dryad Arbor has never seen one of those. It's only in Future Sight. It wasn't from the vault, but that, you know, that's just a reprint.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
That doesn't count. And I think it fits in really good with Greek mythology theme. It's a Arbor to Dryad. It's a nice cycle of lands that they could make. Although I'm not sure if like it's actually part of the River of Tears. Horizon Canopy.
It's not technically part of that cycle because it was at uncommon.
Yeah, those were rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could see like a cycle of like land creatures being a thing.
They could do that.
Which would be, uncommon, which would be really awesome for like the limited format.
Yeah.
And constructed. So I think Dryad Arbor's a shoo-in. Whether or not they turn into a cycle is up for debate.
My personal preference is if they do a land cycle, they do the River of Tears cycle.
Like they finish it off.
They finish it off.
There was
like,
a blue-white one, wasn't
like
there?
they did do. That was a
Nimbus
different
Maze?
cycle. Like I mean, a different type. River of Tears was individual. They've done this once with the Graven Karns. Graven Karns then became the set of filter lands in Lorwyn and Eventide and Shadowmoor. Yeah.
Right. So you think like
So
River of Tears?
I think they go back to like River of Tears and Nimbus Maze, you know, one of the other ones. Which
Right.
the River of Tears and Nimbus Maze work really well with the lands we currently have. So those are my two top picks.
Yeah. There's some interactions with Shocklands.
A lot of people feel that also the filter lands just could be printed again
I'm fine with that too.
because they see you know, decent amount of modern
they're like
play.
1 to 2 in
Yeah.
most modern decks.
But they have some value. They're not, you know.
Oh, they're
still
like $5 lands.
Yeah, some 8 to 10. Some of the blue ones, yeah.
Some of that high, yeah.
The ones that are in Scape Shift are the most expensive.
Yep. Cryptic Command decks would love the blue filter lands. Fetid Grove, not Fetid Heath. The blue-green one.
Flooded Grove.
Flooded Grove.
Yeah.
And Cascade Bluffs.
There you go. Congratulations.
Yay.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of Metagame.
Yep.
Any
Thanks
last
for watching. If you like the content, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Visit our website, TheEndStep.com. Like us on Facebook. All those nice things that you good people like to do.
Don't forget to name the plant.
And name the plant.
See ya.
Bye-bye.